So welcome back to everybody. It's so good to see everyone's faces. And it's been a long time and a lot has happened in 1 month. And the first thing, well, not the first thing, but the second or third thing we'll do is we will do a review, because maybe some people were able to learn over Pesach, but I've had some requests that we do a significant review, just to bring our headspace back into alignment with where we are. So I just want to start off by saying that I got a message from one of the participants, Sylvia Abraham, that her friend's grandson is a 1-year-old child is about to begin brain surgery in Israel, and the surgery will be going on as we're learning. So we'd like to dedicate our learning in the merit of a complete refuah shlema for Abraham Yaakov ben Shterna Sarah. Should be a successful surgery.
Amen.
So before we do a summary, for those of you who are familiar, and we have some new people as well, I'd just like to show you a couple of things that are new on the Google Drive, because I think that everybody should really know, what resources we're making available to you. And we make them available because we think that they're going to be useful for you in this journey. So there we go. So this is, wait a minute. So you see the Google Drive, right? Okay, Mila, just give me a thumbs up, just so that I know that.
Yeah, we see.
Okay, so the first thing that we have here is we have an English translation of this text that we're learning. And the second thing we have is the original Hebrew text. And for those of you who have some access to Hebrew, I really recommend that you work as much as you can with the Hebrew text and use the English text as a backup to help you to understand the flow of things. But there's something about the Hebrew text which is in many ways easier to follow than the English, because it's kind of written in a code almost, where you see the same phrases and the same words repeating and repeating, and in some ways it makes it easier. Okay, the next thing we have here is a Rebbe's Sikha of Mar Cheshvan, and that's really a Sikha that tells us why we need to be doing this kind of learning. Then we have the recordings, and in the recordings, it's all the recordings of these Zoom classes. And most of you should be familiar with all of those. I hope so by this point. Now, this is something fairly new that we've added. And I suggested to Mila that we add this, because if you are interested in working with the Hebrew text, so these inside of this file is the 18-minute videos, Zoom videos of Mila just reading and translating the text without any explanation. So you can go and just follow line by line, word for word, the original text. So I think that's really helpful for people who really want to be working with the Hebrew text. So that's called Shara Yichud, short recordings, reading and translation. Then this Hebrew vocabulary is a Word document that I've put together, where I'm compiling just words, Hebrew words that I think that we need to really begin to understand. But more importantly, something that I've started to do now is I realize that we need definitions more than just the words. So here I've put the definition of Chochmah, of Bina, and what I've done is I put it in the Hebrew, in transliteration, and also in English. And really what I recommend is, as you're going deeper into the study of this, that it would be good to memorize this so that you know what is Chochmah. Chochmah is Haskalat Etzem Ha'inyan, Bilti Bechinet Titlabshut Ba'otiyot Klal. And what that means in English. These are the building blocks of this whole text that we're learning. And it's almost like, for those of you who know geometry, it's like the axioms. It's really the rules, in a sense, that you build everything else on. So there's a definition of Chochmah, definition of Bina, and definition of Das, of Chush, of Omek, the difference between the Omek and the Mashpia and in the Makabel, and then words associated with Chochmah, things like when you see the word Margish, which means to sense something, it means we're talking about Chochmah. When he talks about Bina, he talks about Havana v'Hasaga, which is understanding and comprehension. These are kind of code words. And that's why learning from the Hebrew text is very interesting, or is more simple, because he is consistent with these words. So whenever you see the word Margish or versions of that, then you know you're talking about Chochmah. You're talking about Masig, you're talking about Bina. The Otiot are in Bina. Then, and so on. Das is his kashrut. Das is associated with Chush. The Omek is Mechaber, and so on. Anyway, this is a document that I hope will make some things easier for you. I wanted to, let me see, do we have time for a story? I'll tell you a quick story. So I was quite interested in the discussion that we had a month ago, where people were saying, how are we supposed to use this information or not use it in our daily lives or in our learning? And I had an experience just before Pesach, where I went to a shiur, and the shiur was a tzicha of the Rebbe on the opening lines of the Haggadah. And the opening lines of the Haggadah, they're actually in Aramaic. Hey lachmanya, this is the bread of our, they say affliction in the English, but it's really lechem ani. It's like the poor man's bread. Whoever is hungry, let him come and eat. Whoever is, I don't remember the words exactly, but the Rebbe says, you know, why are you inviting people to the Seder now when you've already started the Seder? And the Rebbe explains that we're talking to ourselves. We're saying whoever is hungry, meaning that you're hungry for ruchniut. And what is the lechem ani, the poor man's bread? So the Rebbe says that it's because we are poor in das. And the woman who was teaching the shiur, she translated it as knowledge, like knowledge of Hashem, that we poor in das of Hashem. And I said to myself, literally, I said to myself, das, and here it is in Yiddish, she'eno lo bechinas haskala, velo bechinas havana, rak bechinas hitkashrut, behem bilvad. So I understood for myself immediately, it's not just not like knowing God or understanding God. What the Rebbe is talking about, if he's using the word das with intention, he's talking about his kashrut, his kashrus, our connection to Hashem. And that's where we lack, that's where we're poor, is in the experience of feeling connected and bonded to Hashem. And I thought to myself, this is how this text is a key to Chassidut. Because there I was, I'd actually learned the Sikha many years ago, and it never occurred to me, this idea. It's like, if the Rebbe is saying that we're poor in das, I know what das is. This is the definition of das. And I felt that I could understand what the Rebbe was saying in a much clearer way, because I literally had the key to open up the Sikha. And I think that for me, that's, maybe it's a little bit conservative to say that's the application, but I think that's an example for me anyway of application. So take a look at this document, and I hope that it helps you. And yeah, let's see in the chat. Okay, so everything that I've shown you, because we have a question here, somebody says, I didn't quite get where we can download and print the vocabulary. So everything that is on the Google Drive, which is what I was showing you, you can download and print. Now, if you need to connect to the Google Drive, the link is in the WhatsApp chat in the description. And for those of you who are on email, we send it out regularly as well. All right, so where are we in this discourse? I'm going to give you a very brief summary, just to bring the idea close to your mind. And then Mila will take you through the mind map, which will give you some more details. Let me just pull up what I want to. No, that's not what I want to. Okay, so this is a very basic breakdown of where we've been, just to reorient yourself and say, okay, now I know where I am. So we start off with the introduction, where we spoke about Shema and the 3 questions of Hisbonenut. Then we went in, and then Reb Hillel Parish said, in order to understand what is Hisbonenus, we need to understand Chochma, Bina, and Das. And why do we need to know what is Hisbonenus? Because Shema is Hisbonenus. And that's how you unify Hashem's name. That's how we understand how the upper worlds and the lower worlds are unified. So first of all, we looked at Chochma and Bina, and we looked at the example of a house, looking at a beautiful house, and at first just seeing all the details and not being able to really explain it to somebody because we hadn't understood it in our Bina brain. And then we also had the example of a Talmudic psak, where the Rav he could give the psak, but he couldn't give the reason. Then we went to Das, and we looked at the example of 2 students, one who wasn't connected to what he was learning, and the other who was deeply connected and could spend a lot of time on it, and really forgot about himself while he was learning it. And we needed to explain, why does one person have das and the other not? So we looked at the shoresh of das, which is a chush. Then we moved on. We wanted to move on to a deeper understanding of Chochma, Bina, and Das. So first of all, we looked at the idea of the Omek, which is that place where 2 things meet. And we were given an example in space, in time, and in spirit, in Ruchniut. The corner where 2 walls meet, dusk where day and night meet, and the meeting of information between a mashpia and a student. And the Omek is this place of ayin. It's a place where two things meet, but you can't measure that meeting point. So that was a very basic idea that we needed to learn in order to continue, because then we needed to look at these three aspects in Chokhmah: the Omek of Chokhmah, the Rochav of Chokhmah, and the Orech of Chokhmah. The Omek is the depth, the Rochav is the width, and the Orech is the length. And that's what we learned in some depth and reviewed a couple of times, actually. And we had the mashal of a spring, where the water comes from the tahom, from the depths of the underground, which is similar to the koach hamaskil, which is the source for chokhmah. And we looked at the two mashalim of how you go back and forth between the mashal and chokhmah. And this is where we're going to go today. We're going to look at Bina, the Omek, the Rochav, and Orech of Bina. And then in the next couple of weeks, we'll look at the mashal for Bina, which is a river, then the Omek, Rochav, and Orech of Das. And then he'll give us the summary of the process and the Iyun. And that will be the beginning. We will have reached the end of the beginning, or the beginning of the end, one of those two. So I hope that just reminds you more or less where we are in the scheme of things. And now, Mila, I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Naria. That was a beautiful summary, kitzur shebekitzer, of everything what we're learning, and it definitely provides us with clarity of where we're standing. So the ideas are not all over flying, but they actually have the alignment and understanding where we're going, and knowing how the ideas are being developed. So what I'm going to show you now would be the visual representation of what Naria was doing. This is the mind map, and for the visual learners that we have on in our course, this might be a good representation of where we're heading. This allows us to keep the main ideas, and on the right here, you'll see the explanations. So we did start with Shema Yisrael. This is our first paragraph, and we discussed about two halachis, where two halachis from Rambam, where Rambam mentions in the first halacha that, these are the Shema Yisrael is the foundation, and understanding that, there's a God in the world and he makes everything exist. And that in halacha 7 talks about that this God is one. Then he goes into Shema, which is understanding. And he points out that Shema, hearing, understanding, it's not a physical process, but rather it's a spiritual power of the inner ear. And he asks 3 questions. And pretty much throughout the whole kuntris of his bonus, which is another name for Shara Yichud, is these questions are being answered, is to understand what is his bonus, why we have the double nun, and why Bina and not Chachma. Then he says, in order for us to answer these 3 questions, we need to really proceed to understand the 3 parts of mind, which is Chabad. And he explained Chachma and Bina. He gave the mashal of the house and the Psagdin, which is understanding how it works in the world of Asiya, and in Mides. Then he went to explain Das. He gave the three indications for somebody who does have Das versus somebody who does not. He also gave us an explanation about the chush and how can we know what chush is. And understanding the when a person is really naturally inclined to do some things and how it really captures the whole person. It's not just on the level of actions. He becomes obsessed with that idea. And he gave a mashal of a person who is chazdan b'tivoi, who is naturally kind. And his whole being starts working to fulfill that desire. And that's how we connect chush as being an expression of the ratzon. And then he goes into understanding the depth, right? He also gives us a very interesting rule that the deeper the hiskashrus to the essence of the concept, it really will depend on the depth of the desire. And he gives us a definition of Omek, Orech, and Rochav, that everything from Chabad, from Chochmah, Bina, and Das, has that 3-dimension. It's not just a flat perception. He goes into Omek, and he leaves the Orech and Rochav. He doesn't explain Orech and Rochav as a pure definition. He only explains Omek. He brings 3 mashalim, which is the corner, dusk, and mashpia and mekabel. And then he goes into understanding of Omek of Chochmah. Right? He talks about the Omek of Chochmah. It's pretty much the connection of Chochmah to Koach HaMaskil. And he brings a mashal of aquifer that this is the Tehom Rabbah, from where the waters are being drawn. That would be in the mashal, in the nimshal would be the Koach HaMaskil, and the gidim that bring the water to the surface are going to be the Omek of Chochmah, which is the level of Aleph. So we have the level of Pele, which is the level of Tehom Rabbah, Koach HaMaskil, and Aleph, which is the level of Gidim. And in Kabbalah, it's called Chochmah Stima. It's a hidden Chochmah. And then the last 2 classes, we really spent on Omek, Orech, and Rochav of Chochmah. And we had this diagram where we actually came out knowing that there's a rule that the Orech of anything, it's really dependent on the Omek, on the depth. The ability to give is rooted in the ability to receive. When we receive in a proper, deep way, then we're able actually to bring it down and give it over to whoever we wish. So yeah, this is our brief summary, and we will. If anybody has any questions, please post in a group, in a chat, and not WhatsApp chat, in the Zoom chat. So we're gonna go now.
Mila, I just want to say that the visual that Mila just shared with us is also available for you to view and to download in the Google Drive. So if you're looking for a very good summary, you can go and download that.
Okay, great. So we're gonna go now to the text. Now, before we're gonna go to the text, as Nuria mentioned, I'm sorry. As Nuria mentioned, we're going to be discussing the 3 dimensions of Bina. It's a short paragraph. We're going to be talking about Omek of Bina, Rochaf of Bina, and Omek of and Orech of Bina. So from your understanding, right now we're already quite experienced in Omek, in understanding what Omek is. So I wanted to ask if anybody could dare to apply without us actually going into the text, who is able to having the prior knowledge and the definitions of what Omek is. We have 3 mashalim of Omek, right? We already applied it to Chochmah, to the Omek of Chochmah. What do you think Omek of Bina is? You could just unmute yourself, and who is going to be our Nachshon? Just in your mind, what do you think the Omek of Bina would be?
I'm guessing that there must be a space between Chachma and Bina beginning to expand it. That to me would be Omek, that space of nothing before Bina, or not before that
Bina
intersection between the flash and Bina taking it, beginning to expand it, which would have the same concept of bittul or ayin.
Okay, great. Yeah. Anybody else? That's great. Thank you, Tzivia.
Could it be to do with the left brain?
For sure. I mean, it's definitely, bringing it to Bina, right? But remember, what was the definition of Omek? What is Omek? Yeah, if the mashal is the corner, right? What is corner? It's a connecting point.
Isn't it?
Right, it's a bechinas of ayin. Okay, great. Okay, so it's also a corner, right? Remember, what's a corner? So now one wall is going to be Bina, one wall is going to be Chachma. And the Omek of Chachma is the connecting point, as Tivia pointed out, right? So we could actually now use our brain to understand certain things, although we didn't go into the text yet, right? Meaning it's our curiosity trying to apply a rule that we already know into something that we don't know yet. Now, we may be right, we may be not necessarily right? But we could open up our mind to try to see if the rule can actually apply in this case or not. Okay, so this is our little participation and activating our brains a little bit and trying to apply.
So Mila, there are a couple of people who wrote what they thought in the chat.
Oh, in the chat, okay. Bittul, to receive by letting go of what previously known. Great, yeah. Ayin, connecting, integrating. Yeah, we need a little clarity of connecting. Yes, integrating is, I don't know, that word possesses many notions. I don't know how would that be. Integrating, it's more of an orech job. Yeah, disseminating the knowledge into, back to our reshus, back to our domain. But it's definitely a connecting. But again, since there is a yichud of orech and omek, as we discussed in our previous class, yes, the integration will depend on the level of connection. Okay. I think that was like a little nice warm-up of our brain. Our neurons are eager to find out what's
Mila?
going on. Yes.
And I'd like to actually just share the definition from the document. And also
Okay.
that's the definition that he gives us. And then we can see just from the literal definition. Is that okay?
Sure.
So here we go. This was the definition from earlier on. This is the definition of Omek. Eno mohut klal, rak shehu bechinas hitchabrus, mimohut lemohut, ube'etzem hu bechinas ayin. So the Omek does not have any tangible existence. It's not a mahut. If we say for the word mahut is that doesn't have tangible existence in and of itself. Rather, it is the aspect of hitchabrut, which is connecting and bonding, mimahut lemahut, from between two tangible points. And in essence, it itself is the aspect of ayin, of no thing. The English is difficult to translate, but that's basically the definition. Connecting, bonding between two existences. Okay.
Now, in general, in order for us to understand mashalim clearly, and a lot of times people ask, like, why do we need to have so many mashalim for one idea? It's simply because there's no mashal can really explain the nimshal. And the reason why we see throughout all Hasidic work, the mashalim just bring out one aspect of it, and another mashal brings another aspect of it, and the third mashal brings another aspect of it. And what we need to do is to study those mashalim and create something that will encompass all the aspects that we need to bring out. Yeah, so basically we're going to be taking points from all the mashalim and creating something which actually non-existent in this world. Why? Because then we would just have one mashal. If there would be one mashal that will include all the aspects of the concept, then we don't need another mashal, right? But because there's no, in this physical world, such equivalency, so what do Rebbeim do? They bring multiple mashalim. So we can take only one aspect of the each, or two aspects of the each, or three aspects of the each, but they'll mention exactly in which aspects they are similar. And sometimes they'll actually will mention that it works in a mashal, but not fully. These aspects of the mashal don't really apply for the nimshal. And that's why we need to leave them out. And that's where we need that flexibility and open-mindedness to allow, to see different parts of the different mashalim and creating our own perception and understanding of the nimshal. So, okay, let's go into the text. Yeah, everybody is able to see
Yes,
to see the text.
Please make it bigger.
Yes, I just also want to try to figure out how to annotate. Oh, I found it.
Sorry, what page is it on in the English? Sorry to ask.
Here we go. It's page 30 in the English and 302 in Hebrew.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are on page Kuf Nun Beis. Right here. You able to see it bigger now? Yeah, Maria, you see it bigger? Yeah, okay, great.
Yes, excellent.
Okay, so let's go. V'yuven gimel b'chinas de bina hanal. And we will understand the three aspects of bina as it was mentioned above. I'm so sorry. No, we're skipping a paragraph. Sorry, my pardon. Mimashal Gashmi. No, it's actually in page 302. Yeah, 302. Okay, me'ata yesh lahavin. From now, we are to understand inyan gimel chilkei habina, the aspect of the idea of 3 parts of bina. Shehu b'chinas omek, v'rochav, v'orech, which is the aspect of omek, rochav, and orech. Sheba, that's in it. Al derech hanal b'chochma, through the same way how we understood it above in chochma. V'hina b'chinas ha'omek, sheba, he his achdus hasvara be'etzem haskala ha'inyan. And here, the omek that's in it, that's in bina, he his achdus, it's the unification of the explanation of the essence of the haskala, of the idea. Okay. Shehu eina mahus klal, which is not a true entity. What is it? Rak chibur, but it's only a bonding, a chibur, a connection. Mima mahus ha-chochma b'mahus ha-bina. The mahus of the chochma to mahus of the bina. Hanikra ayin, which is called the ayin shel hayesh of bina. Meaning bina is yesh, and the omek of bina is the ayin of the bina. Shehu b'chinas omek hasvara v'tamtzita, which is the aspect of the omek, the depth of the explanation, of the yesh of the bina, and it's also the zuvara and tamtzita. So now we hear is a new word here, tamtzit. Tamtzit is like it's an essence, like a tea essence, right? It's a very condensed. It's a very condensed form of a tea, and what in olden days, I mean, probably now people have the practice of that as well. For Shabbosim, they had like a little pot with the tea essence, and then they had hot water, and then they would just pour a little bit of the tea and dilute it with water. So that's what tamtzita is. And v'yuvan al derech she'anu ro'im be'echad. Now he's going to bring a mashal. It's not a mashal, it's an example of somebody. The same way how we brought the example with somebody with das. So, to be honest, from the definition, what he gave us above, I wouldn't know what that means, right? Let's try to read it again. What he's talking about is the unification of the explanations in the essence of the idea, right? It's a lot of words, and sometimes people just get confused in the definition. So when we will understand it in a human being, how it works, it will help us to understand what the definition is, and it will clarify us. So let's, don't get discouraged if you don't really right away understand the definition, because Rabbi Hillel specifically is going to make sure that you will understand what he's talking about through giving different mashalim. And then when we go back to the definition, it becomes much clearer. Okay. V'yuvan al derech she'anu ro'im be'echad, ba'adam echad, with one person. Sheyesh lo koach hatfisa, that he has the power of grasping, of catching things. Ve'hasaga, right? And hasaga is actually grasping. V'oisiyes bilvad, in the letters only. Ukesheshamea eze zuvares b'harchava miribay. And when he hears different explanations at length from his Rebbe, Eino tofes, he is able to grasp, or he is not able to grasp, but rak hazvara bilvad, only the explanations. Aval chaser mimeno etzem inyan, but he's lacking the essence of the idea, of the haskala, of the concept. Okay, bechinas leik shel haskala. Right, it's like the alignment to the essence of the haskala. V'lachein, and therefore, yeah, right here. V'lachein, af al pi shetofes kol ha'oisius hazvaris, ein lo bezeh chayus klal. And interestingly, although he's able to grasp every single letter of what his Rebbe said, it doesn't have chayus in it at all. Meaning, let's look at it. What's happening to him? He's able to grasp the letters, but he's not getting the point, basically. He knows all the letters by heart. He could tell it to you and, talk about it, blah, 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 but he's not getting the point. Because the main point of the chayus, who bebechinas etzem hahaskala, is in the essence of the concept. Shu bechinas hachachma, and this is the aspect of the chachma. Kamamar, as the saying goes, v'hachachma techaye, and chachma will give life. From this we learn that the actual chayus, and soon, just this is a keyword, the actual chayus is in chachma. Aval mi, but now we're looking at another person. Aval mi sheyesh lamoach hatfisa. He has the brain of tfisa. Okay, that's very interesting because look over here. Did you see he said moach hatfisa? And before, by the guy, he said koach hatfisa. You see this? Over there. Although he has a power of the tfisa, of catching, and the hasaga in oisius bilvad. Right? By the other guy, he says, aval misha yesh lo moach hatfisa. He has a brain of tfisa. I'm just raising the question, right? We'll see how it will leach into answering them. Bahaskalas ha'inyan, right? Basically, now the second guy is a little bit different. He has the brain of tfisa, moach hatfisa, bahaskalas ha'inyan, in the haskala of the idea. Okay, and who bechinas Omek of Bina, and this is already the Omek of Bina. Okay, which is what? And he redefines it. Okay, shehu bechinas habitul hamoach hasmali, which is the aspect of the bitul of the left brain. Shebo shura koach habina, that in the left brain dwells the koach of the bina. Legabe moach hayimini, this is the bitul of the bina towards the right brain. Okay, shebo shura koach hachachma. That's in the right brain. We see the dwelling of the moach hachachma. Okay, azay. Therefore, hishayishma miriboy prites varis. So now the second guy has that connectivity between his left and right brain. Right, they are aligned. Okay, and he has access to it, meaning he has the omek of the chachma. What happens when he yishma miribo pirtes varis? When he hears from his Rebbe the details of the explanation, mitachet koach hachachma ba'oisius elu. So koach hachachma now, it's not just like a different compartment in his brain. The mitachet koach hachachma ba'oisius elu. Now koach hachachma becomes unified in these letters. Meaning it's not that they are letters and then there is the koach hachachma, but now they are merged. The koach hachachma actually being invested in the letters. Okay? And because of this, and because of this, he's able to feel, again, the word feel, right? Margish. Not understand, margish. He feels the nekuda of the chachma, hamelubash bahem, which is enclosed in them, chulu v'dal. Okay? You get it? What happens now? One has a disconnect between his left and right brain. Okay? he views these are the letters and we have to study them, and that's it. Okay, great. We have to study them, but you also have to get the point. Right? The other one has an open door between his left and right brain, which is his koach of the Bina and Chachma. And now we don't care who's dominance, right? Meaning we all have functioned with two brains. So therefore, I guess that's what it means being open-minded, right? Open-minded when that door between the left and right brain is not shut, because then we're in big trouble. Okay, meaning we could read a lot of information, but we cannot get what's the point. What should we do with this information? How? And at the same time, we will not know how to apply it in our lives, because orech is the application. Okay, if we don't have omek, we cannot know how to apply it in our lives. And we're going to ask that question, no, what should we do now? How are we applying this into our lives? Well, that happens only when we don't see the point. Okay. Okay. Now, what are now going to be the indicators of somebody who actually had that open-mindedness and an open door between his Bina and Chachma? We see we have chayus godol v'oisiyis elu, and therefore he has a tremendous vitality in these letters. V'zeu Omek of Bina, and this is Omek of Bina. And as we know, Omek is Keser, and now this is the crown of Bina, the Keser of the Bina. Okay. Now, any questions pertaining to the Keser of the Bina? I know we just said a lot, so probably like our brains are like.
So it's an obvious question of what is it? What is Keser of Bina? I mean, it doesn't signify
You
for
just
me.
said it's a connection. It's a door that just opened up. And what do you think in it? Because if it's not, by the way, the Omek of the Omek of Bina, in other words, it's also the 50th gate of Bina. Okay, we know we're talking about, we heard about it, I'm sure, right? So that there are 50 gates of Bina. This is something pretty much what we're working on. The 49, the counting of the Omer, it's also, signifies a lot tremendously on, our understanding of things. And Bina is a very interesting thing. It's a yesh, but at the same time, if Bina is not connected to the Chachma, there is no Bina. Bina is not its own existence yet. Well, there is a lot of elements of surprise, but in order for us to get surprised, we first need to understand how the concept evolved in Shara Yichud, right? So this is so far information we know, right? And let's focus on how the information is being presented. And there's a reason why he does it, because a lot of times what we'll see in Shara Yichud is that we will create a rule, okay? And then we might think like, oh, we know it, that's it, it's beautiful, okay? And then Reb Hillel is going to come with a huge axe and shatter our perception. It's going to say, you know what, it's actually not like that. And you're like, wait a second, you just said that. Yeah. What did you ask, Sylvia?
Can I just wanted to ask if you could say that it's the case that Keser of Bina would be equivalent to Omek of Bina.
Exactly, yeah. That's exactly what it is. The Keser of Bina, Omek of Bina, depth of Bina. This is all the same way how it was by Chachma. Remember how we aligned in our diagram that we showed, right? It was the Omek of Chachma is a Keser of Chachma. Now, what do you think the Rochav of Bina is? Is the Chachma of the Bina. Right? So it's beautiful to see how all this terminology becomes demystified if we just organize it, right? And we actually know what we're talking about. And when we come across these terminology in other Ma'amarim, as Neria pointed out, it's like, oh, we know what that is, right? Now, what sometimes ends up happening is that we might know the definition, and other ma'amarim could give us a broader understanding of what these things are, right? So it's only a key, it's not the whole room. Okay, so let's move up. I see somebody asked the question. Yeah. Yeah, somebody wanted to say something?
I wanted to know, Mila,
Yeah.
I wanted to also ask a question. I wanted to understand, the way you was describing Bina, I wasn't sure, was the pathway that you start like bottom up, like through Bina, and that's how you get to the Omek of Bina, and that's really attached to Chachma, or is he describing a process of being in Chachma and then bringing it to Bina, bringing it to the Omek of Bina, and then being able to understand, like, which way is this happening? Is it happening
So,
to Bina?
right. So that's important. Important that you're pointing this out. And I think at this moment we're mature enough to understand it, because a lot of times when we are thinking in a linear way, right, which in the beginning we will be thinking in a linear way because we don't know that we don't have the depth yet. So in a linear way, we will know that we are thinking up, down, or down, up. How are we looking at it? Okay. Here he is looking down, up. Okay. He is looking for somebody. He brings the marshal. He's talking about a makabel who receiving the knowledge from the Rebbe. So he is already on a downer level, and he's receiving. So we're looking at a down-up view. Okay. And specifically in this chapter, we're going to talk a lot about up-down and down-up view. But in this particular instance, yes, we're talking about down-up. Okay.
And the Rebbe is the up, meaning it's not really within him. It's something outside of him, that the Chachma, in a way, even though he probably
Exactly,
has
because the Rebbe
then
is giving him oisios, the letters, right? Okay, now I'm a recipient. I'm reading the mimer right now. Okay, if I only got the words, what do you think gonna happen? I mean, don't think that it's not something we don't experience. We experience this process every single time. You're reading something and you have no idea what you're reading. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel excited about it? No, you're just reading and reading and reading. How many times we enter into a text and we're like confused? Like we're reading, meaning we know the translations of the words. We're not, we don't have decoding problem. Meaning we're reading, we're understanding what we're reading, but it just doesn't make sense. The idea is not flowing. I'm not understanding what's going on here, right? So I'm not going to have any chayas into this. I might get bored. If it's going to happen for long periods of time, every time I open my book, we call it a comprehension issue, right? Meaning I'm reading, meaning the mechanism of decoding is there, but I'm not getting it, right? So if you have a student in your class like that, how long is he going to survive in your classroom? If he can read a story and not really understand the plot of the story, what happened? Right? We have it all the time, like especially when we focus a lot on reading and translating Chumash, right? A child could be amazing translator of the Chumash, but he cannot understand the meaning of the pasuk, or he cannot understand the chain of the psukim, and that idea was actually developed, that there's actually a story there. So that's moving beyond the decoding. Okay. So now this is the student. He knows that there are those guys that they actually know the psukim by heart. They don't have problem with ICS. They just don't understand what this represents. So that they're not excited about it. They're not excited about their learning. So there's no chayus there. Which of the students are going to have chayus? Those that do know how to read, they do know how to decode, and they also understand the meaning behind it. So the meaning behind it, that's where they feel so much excitement and so on and so forth. It happens to us as well. When we have the aha moment, right? Like, oh, that's what you mean. Margish besichloi. Remember, he feels in his brain. It's not something that he can actually point out because it's the same letters. You understand what it is? It's the same letters. But one says, oh, that's what you mean. Okay, and the other is like reading and reading and reading, and it's all riddle for him. Like he didn't get the riddle. Okay.
Mila, it seems to me that it's more than just understanding the point. It's more like the point behind the point, like the deeper application, because you can understand the literal meaning and still be bored by it. But if you understand the intention behind it, which maybe is where you get that word tamsit, like something, the essence of it, something that is more than just what appears on the surface.
It's a formula. It's like, you know, those who teach math, right? I'll tell you what it is. Like 2 apples, and then you have 2 apples, it equals 4. And and people might think that this concept of multiplications or division or addition, it only applies to apples. No, it doesn't apply only to apples. There's a concept behind it. We're bringing apples as a mashal, right? As a way to show with manipulatives of how this concept works. But then there is a stage in a child's understanding that I can actually apply this concept to apples, to bananas, to numbers, to books, to anything. Okay, that's what is that? That is the chachma. This is a formula. Okay, anything plus anything equals the sum of both. You understand what I mean? That's what chachma behind it. When a child gets, it's like you'll see. If you're a teacher, you'll see all of a sudden his eyes just shine, and he's like, "Oh, that's what you meant." Okay, so now I'm free to apply it to anything. And there are those students who are very concrete, operational, and they think that it only applies in these instances. Okay, like for example with us, right? We are at the concrete operational stage with Shara Yichud, right? We are working yet. How is the definition of Omek is going to apply to the Omek of Chochma, to the Omek of Bina, and to the Omek of Das? You see what we're doing? And when we will understand that, the applications, we're going to say, oh, that's what Omek is. And you know what? The more we're going to delve elsewhere, the deeper our understanding of Omek will be, right? Meaning there's elementary understanding, and then there's a high school understanding, and then there's, you know, university understanding. As we refine our brain, we're going to have a deeper and deeper ways of understanding. Okay, so this is an Omek of Bina so far. Yeah.
I do think that in some way, I can say for myself at this stage in Shara Yochud, that there is for me, I can say, like, I understand the letters, like I understand the pshat of what I'm learning, but I don't necessarily get something way beyond that. And occasionally in the footnotes of the English version, he kind of gives it away, where he'll apply it and show you where it has a larger application in terms, you know, in terms of our relationship with Hashem or the Seder Shtalshlos. And then I realized, like, wow, you know, he brings it from much later chapters. And then I realize, yeah, I'm really in that place of just understanding the letters. And it's okay, because it's a stage in the process.
Yeah, also we will see how Rachav stimulates Omek. Meaning the more broader knowledge we know in things, it will help us to dig deeper, right? Because we see that, you know, in the physical mashal, if I want to dig a hole, right? I cannot dig a very deep hole without widening the ground. I need to widen in order to go deeper, deeper. Like it's virtually impossible for me to dig deeper. And in order for me to dig deep, I would need to do it wider. This process of us widening our experience with the Hasidic texts, right? With Ma'amarim and, further going further. Okay, we should never feel stuck. Okay, this is what is, this is it. I'm learning only first chapter and that's it. This is what I'm working on. No, go into more chapters, just read them. They're not going to bite us, right? Maximum, we will not understand what we're reading. But a lot of times what ends up happening is that we read these things and, they circle in our brain and they wash our brain, and then we understand certain things. And then we go back and, the first chapter is going to be a different chapter already. Okay, let's move on to Rachav. Yeah, what?
No, I just thought that before you go on to the Rachav, since this is the largest part, maybe I can just go and do the summary, just so that everybody's on the same page with you, so that we know just the pshat of what was said.
Sure, let's go.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, let me just share my screen. So just to give you the pshat, and also to go back to that definition, as Mila said, until you really have the example, it's hard to understand the definition. So the definition of the Omek of Bina was the union of the explanation with the essence of the conceptualization of the subject. Once again, it's a lot of words, but it's really just saying the union of Bina, which is the explanation, with the essence of the conceptualization of the subject, which is Chochmah. So the Omek of Bina is not a mahut, but it is the connection between the mahut of Chochmah and the mahut of Bina. It's the chibur, it's the connection between these two entities. And it is called the ayin of the yesh of Bina. So Bina, we know, is more of a yesh than has more of an existence. So we talk about the yesh of Bina, and the Omek of Bina is the ayin. It's the non-tangible part of the tangible Bina. Another way that we can define it, so he's really giving us like 4 definitions, where he says the Omek of the Omek of Bina is the Omek of the explanation, and explanation is always Bina, and its essential point, the Tamtzita. So the Tamtzita is what we're getting from Chochmah. It's the essential point, because we always talk, when we talk about Chochmah, we're always talking about Haskalat Etzem HaInyan. It's the essence of it. So here you have the Omek of Bina is the explanation together with the essential point, the Chochmah. So now probably we can understand that definition a little bit better than when we first encountered it. So this is the example. A person hears a detailed explanation from his teacher, but only grasps and understands the letters. In other words, he grasps only the explanation, the external aspect of the subject, but lacks the essence of the concept, the etzem inyan haskala. Once again, he's lacking the chokhmah aspect of it. So he's not enlivened by the subject, because enlivenment comes from chokhmah, as it says, chokhmah enlivens those who possess it. And it's a quote from Kohelet. Now, in contrast, someone who grasps the essential intellect of the concept, which is the Omek of Bina, and what is the Omek of Bina? The beetle of the left brain of Bina to the right brain of Chokhmah. And when he hears a detailed explanation from his teacher, his power of Chokhmah unifies with the letters, and as a result, he feels the point, the nakudah of the Chokhmah that is enclosed in the letters of the explanation. So, as a result, he is greatly enlivened by these letters, or by letters we mean the explanation, which is Bina. And this is the Omek of Bina. And the Omek of Bina is also called Keter of Bina. Okay, so that's just the pshat of what we were learning before.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason why there are two names for it, but if it's actually the same, why is one Omek and one Keter?
It's
yeah.
it's mainly because they are different lashon. One is Omek, it's a Hasidic lashon, and the Keser is a lashon of Kabbalah. In Kabbalah, it usually speaks in the sense of spheres. Like it will say, Golgotha, it will say Atik, Arich, and all that, right? In Hasidic works, we see our Rebbeim actually explaining what is Arich. Arich means a long one, a long face. Arich Anpin, it's a long face. I mean, it doesn't tell me anything, right? Atik Yomin, the old guy from before. It's it doesn't really provide me with a meaning behind it. In Hasidic text, we see that it's more of a meaning behind it, meaning it's a pleasure. It's a ratzon, it's a desire. It's omek, right? Meaning there are more meaning to it because Chassidus explains more things in the way how it's being relatable to us. And in Lashon Kabbalah, it's just, a definition and, people actually, learning things.
I think
So,
also
meaning that there's no reference to those details in Kabbalah, only in Chassidus?
Oh. Mila, did you hear the question? No. Well, I will just add, Mila will answer the question, but I'll just add, and Mila, you can tell me if you think this is true. I think it's kind of like what you were saying of having another mashal. If you want to try and understand what Omek is, you now have the mashal, in a sense, of Keter. Because Omek is an ayin, and so is Keter, Keser. So now you have another way of trying to understand Omek, which in many ways is not understandable because it's not tangible. So we're giving you another way of thinking about the same thing. So then the Rochav will always be Chochmah. It's more tangible. And the Orech is going to be Bina. It gives you another way of thinking about it. At first, I think it can be a little bit confusing, but in the long term, and right now, I think maybe it's not that useful to try and think about it too much. It's more like it's a formula. But ultimately, I think that when you understand the concepts more, it'll provide, it's almost like it provides a rocha, but it provides a different way of thinking about the same thing. Mila,
I have a question. I have a different format of the book, and I wonder if you can help me find myself in that book. I'll turn on the video in a moment, show you the book. That's the book. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Are you with me?
So what we can do is we can tell you which paragraph it is in terms of, oh, that's the English.
It's English and it has many small chapters. So I was trying to find, I see that you're somewhere in chapter Aleph, but here this first chapter is very short. It has many short chapters. So it's completely different format.
Esther, if you can contact me privately, then if you're on the WhatsApp chat, I can help you to find that.
Okay, I'll try. I don't know if I have you on chat. I'll try to find.
Okay.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you.
Mila, can we can we go on to the Rochav and Orach? Because it's getting a bit late. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, Mila, for some reason, is not able to unmute herself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to continue just with the English. And we'll see if we can go back to the Hebrew. So now that we've understood the Omek of Bina, so we go to the Rochav of Bina. And he gives a very short explanation here. And that is that the Rochav of Bina is the explanation itself, which is tangibly revealed. It's a tangible yesh. It's the explanation itself. And it is called Chochmah of Bina. So the way that I understand the Rochav of Bina is, it's what we were talking about before in the example, is it's the explanation that the teacher would be giving. It's the literal explanation of the concept. Now the Orach of Bina is the power in the person to draw down the explanation and in the explanations and enclose them in alternate explanations and alternate analogies to the point that it can be understood even by a small child. And this is Bina of Bina. So the Orach of Bina is the way in which you can, because of your depth of understanding, and we spoke about it before, that the Orach is always connected to the Omek. So in order to bring something down and explain it to even to a small child, meaning that you really understand what it is that you're talking about, and so you can create other explanations and also analogies so that a concept which is quite abstract can then be understood quite easily. And that's the Orach of Bina, the power of bringing down the explanation. Mila, you're still not able to unmute? Okay. Okay, so we're going to go to breakout rooms. Please stay on and go to the breakout room and just discuss some of these issues. If you can, I think it's really useful to try and think of a situation where you experienced this, where you experienced just being able to understand something, but not being enlivened by it because you didn't really get the point. Or when you tried to explain to somebody something and they just didn't get what you were saying. Okay. Can you put people in? Are you able to put people in? Okay, there we go. You can join your breakout room. You have to agree to join.
Saw that?
Okay. Okay, so let's open up the mics and just questions, insights, anything that you want to share with the group, pour your energy back into the group.
I want to share something.
Okay.
Okay, so I was sharing this in the group that I wanted very much to teach the Sefirat Omer, the Sefirot and And then each year, I see it's a deep learning, you know. But what we are talking about, like, I cannot only know what is Gevura, like, oh, Gevura, you know, the idea Gevura. No, I have to go into the details of the Gevura, all the, you know, connected to all the other Sefirot, and really to teach something, you know, to really know something, you have to go into a lot of details that sometimes in the beginning you are not aware. You think, okay, the definition of Gevura, no, but it's not. You have to take all the details into consideration, all the details. Then maybe I can teach, you know, but details that I didn't know from the beginning. You know, it's like going deep in the ideas. And each year I see, I want to teach, but each year I see, oh, I didn't know. You have a spectrum that I was not aware. It's not just a definition, what is half a definition, what's given. No, you have to know a spectrum that each of them connect to the other ones, and then maybe I can teach something, you know.
So are you, how are you relating it to what we're learning now?
What I'm trying to relate is that that maybe these teachings are trying to connect us with things that we are not aware, the points of even what is Chokmah, what is Bina, you know, that we are not aware, to broaden our mind and our understanding and our knowledge, to be aware, or to open the channel really for us to be able to teach, you know, to talk about, or to know something. It's true.
Yeah. Look, there's learning b'derech klal, which is you learn the ideas in general, and then we go into the details. And we see later in this this discourse, what he teaches us is that you have to start off with the big picture, with the derech klal, and then you go into the details, and then you put the details back into the big picture. And this is literally what you do with your mind. And your mind goes like this, it expands, and then it expands into detail and expands outward. But you start off with general details, like he did, Chachma, Bina, and Das. Now we go into more detail, Orech, Rochav, and Orech of Chachma, and then he's going to come back out and show us the whole, where it fits into the whole picture. So yes, that's the process, is the big picture, the details, putting it back into the big picture, and it's endless. In terms of teaching, for sure, but the Rebbe also said, if you know Aleph, teach Aleph. So there's always somebody that what you know, if you really feel that you know it, you can share it with somebody. So it's kind of open source. I think the Rebbe was the first one to understand open source. Everybody's a Chabad house. Everybody can teach somebody. Okay, thanks, Esther. Who's up next? Just to share. Okay.
I couldn't find you on WhatsApp. How can I share the book with you? Can you take a screenshot of yourself, possibly, if I hold the book here?
It's called The Gate of Unity. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Hebrew English.
Are other people having problems with the page references? I know that a few other people have this version of the book. When I give you,
I have this one.
No, I'm talking about the English.
That's Benjamin Walters, I think. I have that. Very different.
I couldn't find where you are now, so I need help to find it.
Nuria?
Yeah.
Oh, chapter.
Nuria?
Yes.
Nuria, Cody took her phone to this place called Digitali, and they printed out for her. And it's very nice. It's a big paper. It's easy to read. You can find a place that will print it for you. That you can print the Hebrew and the English.
That's the truth is that is what what I have done. If you're finding that the page references that I'm giving you are different than the book, I don't have the book with me at the moment. But we have given you in the Google Drive, you can download the English translation, and that is what I will be giving you page references for. I know that a few people have the book. I think Yoni and Sylvia, you have the book. Are you finding that the page references I give you are incorrect?
Is this book?
No.
No, they are correct.
Okay,
You
so
said
then
page 30. Mine looks like that.
right.
Ah,
Oh, it's called Listen Israel. So maybe it's a different book, because that's
Okay.
the book, that's the text that we are working from. Esther, show me the book that you're working with. Esther,
Esther,
put to me again.
this
It's
is
called
from Rabbi Benjamin
Oh.
Walters.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
the text we're working from.
Yeah. But the basic text is the same.
Okay. But if you want to follow along according to, the page numbers, so then go to the Google Drive and download, download the English translation.
In fact,
That's
I had
all
the
I
book
can say.
before. I just bring today, but I had the book before. But it's more important the class. So what can I ask? What is the purpose of this study?
So Esther, have you just recently joined?
Hmm?
Have you just recently joined this group?
No, I begin to study with Shifra Hana, a little bit.
I'm
So it's like,
asking.
yeah.
Have you been part of this group for a while?
Yeah.
So I would suggest that you go and listen to the introductory lecture that we gave, which talks about why we're doing this studying and the details of it. Because every now and then it is something that we discuss, but it's something that, it's really a discussion all of itself.
Okay.
All right, so if you go listen to the introductory class, with all the other recordings, you'll find an answer to that question.
Yeah, no, I think I came in the third class, maybe even the third class.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, is there anybody who would like to share anything that they came up with in their group? Or any questions that you might have? No? Okay, somebody was saying earlier that they feel that especially the Omek of Bina is not so clear to them. And I was really explaining that he gave us an example of what the Omek of Bina is, and actually the Rochav as well. But he didn't give us a mashal yet. And next week, when we look at the mashal of Bina, I think things will become much more clear. In my experience, what the mashal does, an example gives you a context. It gives you an explanation. But when he gives us an analogy, which is more like the mashal, so then, because the mashal is an image, it really connects our right and left brain, because he's given us an explanation which speaks to our left brain, but the mashal is an image which speaks to our right brain. And when that happens, we're able to go back and forth unconsciously and really understand the concept in a much more integrated way. So if you're not feeling like you have great chayos from what we've discussed about Bina if it wasn't so like interesting. So I think that when we come next week and we look at the river, that you'll begin to really get the point behind it, the tamsit in a sense. And so, and also when you talk about the river, there are many, many places, even in Chumash, where suddenly you will understand things differently because of the mashal of the river. All right, so I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, put them on the WhatsApp group, and yeah, go to the Google Drive, watch the videos, keep doing Chazara, keep just going over the text, and then, then clarity will come. But just to know that we're still in that process of learning the building blocks. He's just really teaching us the building blocks, and we don't yet see the binyan. We don't see the building yet. We're just dealing with the building materials. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Toda rabba.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And sorry that Mila lost her voice.
How did that happen?